Alrighty, gang. Here's to nights that turn into mornings and friends that turn into family. Cheers!
Hello. Welcome to the Friendship IRL podcast. I'm your host, Alex Alexander, and each week we explore what's working and what's not in our friendships, community, and connections. Have you ever wished you could sit down and have a conversation about what is really going on in your friendships? Well, you found your people. Join us as we dive into real-life stories and explore new ways to approach these connections. Together, we're reimagining the rules of friendship. I was asked this question on a podcast recently. The host said, when you're with your friends, do you spend a lot of time focused on what you don't have? Like, do you ever find yourself sad about what you're missing? And I know the answer she was going for, or maybe thought I would give, which is yes. But I paused. We all know I love a long pause. And I stared off to the side of my screen, just probably wondering what the heck I was looking at. But I have this photo of so many people in my friend family from a recent wedding we went to. It's printed. It's a printed photo. It is up on the side of my desk. Now, not everyone's in this photo. We're missing some people, but it's a large group of us. 1, 2, 3. 20. There's 20 of us in that photo. I'm just staring at that photo. And I turned and I looked at her and I said, no. Because I'm just so darn grateful for what I do have that when I am there, I'm almost never sad. Now, sure, in some of my deep therapy days, there was a little sadness, which is why I'm not saying 100%. But that was few and far between. And that's not to say I don't get sad about what I don't have every once in a while. Again, at this point, very few and far between, but it's pretty rare. Now, her question, the interview you can listen to in a few weeks now, was related to family. Like, when have built myself this friend family and I'm with them, am I ever sad because of the family of origin situation I don't have? But I think that this could apply to anyone. Because as I started thinking about it, I realized something that I think a lot of us could work on is enjoying our friendships. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to pause for a second so you can think about it. Are you enjoying your friendships? What do you think? Are you looking for the good in your friendships? Are you soaking in the moment? Are you enjoying their company? Are you present? Because I know that I truly allow myself to enjoy the connections I have built when I'm with them, but honestly, also when I'm without them. Like in this moment where I got so caught up looking at this photo of my friends that I actually kind of forgot I was recording a podcast. Like, as I was counting the fact that there are 20 people in this photo, in my head, I was just like, wow, that is crazy in the best way possible. Like, I am delighted by that. And I want you to have that too on whatever level. It doesn't have to do with 20 people being in a photo. It could just be one friendship feeling so supportive, or one friendship feeling so fun or new but promising. It could be that simple little connection at your neighborhood coffee shop that always brings a smile to your face. Do you ever just delight in that for a second? Maybe it's walking into your place of business, your job, so formal, Alex, or your kid's school, community center, place of worship, and feeling so at ease. Do you ever just delight in that for a second? And for you, it might be your family. I love that for you. It might be that you drive up to your parents' house You're in the car and you feel that sigh of relief, like, wow, I am home. I can take a deep breath here. Does that ever just make you break out into the biggest smile ever? Because it should. It's a really beautiful thing. There is a stark contrast between having friends and enjoying your friends or your community, your connections, your family. So how do you tap into that genuine joy? Today in this episode, I want to tell you what might be getting in the way of that enjoyment. And then I want to talk a little bit about some ways that you might learn to enjoy your friendships. And yes, I said learn because this is a process. It's not going to be a switch overnight. And then we'll close it out. And by the way, if you're here and you're a weekly listener, I just want to tell you, I promise guests are coming back. Although funny enough, people love my solo episodes. So maybe you've been really enjoying this and you're sad that guests are coming back. I don't know, but I promise it won't just be me forever. Okay, let's get out of that sidebar. Let's jump into what might be getting in the way of your enjoyment. I broke this down into 4 categories. The first one is the mental chatter in your head. We all know how much I love to talk about the voices in your head. But the mental chatter could be so many things. It could be that while you're with your friends, you are wondering if you are too much, or maybe you're not worthy. Maybe you're calculating if you're a good friend or not. You're like, oh, wow, I haven't reached out in 6 months. And that's just going to weigh on you this entire time. You can't seem to let it go, that you feel like you are a bad friend because it's been so long, and it's going to ruin the entire time you're together. Or maybe not ruin it, but dampen it a little bit. Definitely not swing it towards that enjoyment end of the spectrum. Maybe the mental chatter has to do with worrying if your friends are spending more time with other friends and less time with you. Maybe you've ended up in some sort of spiral where you're like, wow, do they really like me? Or am I just like the extra invite? Am I just the easy friend to bring to this? Or perhaps there's some version of keeping score here. Like, oh, well, I've had to initiate every single time we've been together. Whatever it is, this mental chatter of comparing yourself, because that's really what it is, right? Is like comparing yourself to the friend you think you should be, or the version of you that is interesting enough to be friends with. Is that getting in your way? Because if you're so bogged down with like, do they really like me? There is no space or very, very little space to have those moments of like, wow, I really love spending time with this person. I love who I am when I'm with this person. We have so much fun together. There's not a lot of space for those thoughts when you're spiraling about like, do they really like me? Am I just the extra invite? Was I just the easiest person to bring to this? Do I just always say yes and bend over backwards? Is that why they brought me to this? Do you see what I'm saying? Those are 2 very different internal play tracks going on. Which one are you on? Now, the second way that we might be getting in the way of our own enjoyment of our friendships is anxiety about the future. If you get together and you are so focused on this fear of losing this friendship, whether that is just because of your mental chatter, because you're so focused on it, you're a bad friend, but it also might be worrying that some big life change is going to happen. They're going to move away. They're going to change careers. They're going to find a partner. They're going to, whatever they're going to do, and it's going to change your friendship. And you're just so worried because you're grasping onto this current version so tightly. Or perhaps there's some anxiety about just not trusting in general. Like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. This friendship has felt so easy and so natural. You've never maybe had a friendship that felt that way. And so you're just going into every hangout with this friend so worried that the other shoe will drop and that it'll be just like every other friendship. But you don't know when that's going to happen. Like at what point in the future? Is it today, tomorrow? You don't want to let yourself enjoy it. What if it all goes away? Maybe it's the opposite end. Maybe you don't want to get too attached. You've done that before in the past. Or you haven't done that before. This is the first time you've ever felt this much ease with a friendship and you're worried it's just too easy. And then one I hear about actually a decent amount, which is this idea of kind of like trying to store up connection for later. I think this especially happens when we end up in those friendships where we have like our really close people. Maybe they've turned into historic friends, but they're some of our most important friends. And you already have that anticipatory anxiety. Like, you know that you have 2 days together for probably the next 2 years, maybe. And you're just so anxious about how you only have 2 days and you have to make the most of it, that if, let's say, you don't spend all of it talking, if you spend an hour or two of it separate, going on a walk, trying to recharge for some introverts out there, that might be better for like a weekend long hangout and leave you more fulfilled than trying to force your way through 48 hours straight of time together. It's going to be different for everyone. I'm just trying to show an example of like, if you're so worried about maximizing this time because you're not going to get it again for so long, are you really enjoying it? Number 3, when your past friendship baggage gets in the way. So this could be all sorts of things. It could be an old friendship wound. It could be that one of your oldest friends, there was a big friend breakup, and you know what led to the breakup. Something really particular. It was about like communication. It was about not responding to things your friend felt like you should respond to quick enough. And so maybe you can't enjoy it because you're just always so panicked every time that you aren't responding fast enough. Or maybe it's initiating. Maybe the friend breakup feedback was that your friend felt like they were always initiating. And so now you are so panicked because you like this friendship and you want to make sure that you are always one-to-one initiating, even if you really don't have capacity for that right now. Are you really enjoying the fact that your friend wants to reach out to you? Now, that was a really specific example of a friendship wound, but another way you could be leaning into that like past friendship baggage is just comparing your current friends to your past ones. Maybe your current present friend, some neighbor you've gotten to know really well over the past few years. I think this is a common one for a lot of people. You keep comparing it to your closest friend from college. You're just like, wow, they don't feel the same. Like, this is my closest friend, but they don't feel the same. And if you're just always comparing two very different life circumstances, right? College to, let's say, balancing a career and caregiving responsibilities and paying bills and doing all these things versus just like the carefree life in college, those friendships are going to feel very different. You can't compare them. Maybe you've had a rough go of it in your friendships and you're just always waiting to be disappointed. And this is a big one. You know, if you were walking into every friend interaction looking for the places that are going to let you down, like whatever you look for is going to appear. It's going to stand out. There's actually a cognitive bias. I can't think of the name right now, but I'm going to look it up right after this. But basically, if you decide you're going to buy a specific brand of car, you're going to see that car everywhere because what you're looking for stands out more, what you're aware of. So if you're just waiting to be disappointed, that is absolutely going to get in the way of you enjoying your friendships. Now, my fourth and final way that you might be ruining your enjoyment is just present distractions. Part of this is being present in your friendships, especially like in the moment, right? I think that me standing here looking at this photo of my friends and being delighted has so much to do with maybe those first 3. But in the moment when I am with them, if I am constantly checking my phone or feeling like I need to post every single moment of this, or not even post it maybe, but just like take photos of everything because, oh my gosh, we're not going to get this again for so long. So I need to take 1 million photos. Like, if that is your focus, is every thought is on capturing it, are you really enjoying it? Another present distraction could be planning the next hangout while you're in this one. What I mean by that is if the moment you maybe get off the plane, you're like, we need to do this again soon. And it just keeps coming up. wow, can we make this happen again soon? Can we, you're on a walk. It's like, what if we could do this once a year? If every single thing you're doing, you're already focused on doing it again, you're not present. What I don't mean by that is, I do think you can say, like, hey, I love doing this. I'd love to make it a more regular thing, maybe at the beginning sometime. And at the end of, let's say, the weekend together, saying like, hey, do you think we could actually get a date on the calendar for next year? That is so different than every single thing you're doing, bringing up and focused on, right? That's like the future anxiety showing up again. Another one would be like the multitasking during friend time, which could definitely be the phone checking and the documentation, but it also could just be like, oh, well, we got together. Actually, a great example of this is the number of times that I have had a friend, many friends. There have been many friends, right? Because I work for myself, who will say, oh, let's have a work date. And sometimes that works. But what happens more often than not is, especially if we haven't seen each other in a while, is we get together, we bring our laptops, and we actually don't work at all because we actually just go into friend time because we want to spend time together. I do think a work date can work if we see each other pretty regularly, but if this is like the one time I see this friend every 6 months, I probably don't want to be distracted by trying to chat with them and be like, oh, sorry, I can't talk for the next 5 minutes because I have to do this thing. Like, that is not really me being present. Sometimes it's got to happen, but I'm not sure that's leading to the most enjoyment of my friend time. Like, we got to do what we got to do. I know that sounds, because I talk about integrating your friends into your life. Like, you got to do what you got to do. And I do think over time, you can find enjoyment in doing the daily life things with your friends. But if you are not practicing the skill at all, if your skill level here is 0, it's going to be really hard to multitask. Now, it would be a great place to practice what I'm about to talk about. Maybe you can find some moments in a challenging situation. I love that for you. Give it a try. Now, how do I think you learn to find enjoyment? This is what I'm about to talk about. Number 1, you just need to give yourself permission to enjoy your friends. This can mean so many things. It can mean permission to put your phone down. So like, this time with your friends is more important than work or documenting or whatever the heck is happening on that phone. Could be permission to say like, I am enough. Could be permission to stop comparing yourself to like, I am happy with the friendships and connections I have. Could be permission to trust, especially if that past baggage, like whatever you got to say to yourself. Sometimes we got to give ourselves boundaries and rules and guideposts. So when the mental chatter with the anxiety, when it starts popping up, you can just be like, you know what? I am enough. I am not listening to that anymore. I trust that this friendship is good for me. I trust that I have what I need right now. So those are some kind of background things you can do. And I think you can do that all the time. Like, part of it is just telling yourself different things than what you're currently letting your brain tell you. It's putting up a stop and being like, no. We are not going down that spiral. We are going to stop that right here. And we are just going to decide to believe that this friendship is easy. And that's okay. We don't need to make it more complicated than it is. Okay. So if you're like, Alex, I'm not going to do that. 1, give it a try. Again, this is like a practice. The second thing is to take some practical steps. So one of those would be just really deciding with yourself, like, hey, I'm going to, for 5 minutes, I'm going to be purely present. I'm going to look for the good in this connection, in this moment, in this hangout. I'm going to look for the fun and the enjoyment and the gratitude. That's all I'm looking for 5 minutes. I'm going to try and find as many good things as this is about this as I can. And maybe next time it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Maybe it's 3 5-minute chunks. I can build up to it. Another practical step would be to just start trying to notice one thing you enjoy about each friend. I think this is especially helpful if you are in a group where maybe you're overwhelmed by the group. Put your mental focus on trying to find one thing you enjoy about each friend. Because if you don't love a group setting, it could be really easy to just find the one thing you're annoyed about. How they keep interjecting, or they keep doing this, or they keep doing that. Instead, spend the time trying to find one thing you enjoy about each friend. Another practical step would be practice receiving connection. I know that sounds very esoteric and out there, but it's all about these little moments of appreciation. Now, this one could go for your big present friendships, but I'm actually going to talk about it for a community connection, right? I've mentioned the person at the local coffee shop who just always smiles at you. That is you receiving connection. Can you receive it? Can you stand there and look at this person who is always smiling at you and warmly greeting you and asking you how your day is looking? And can you just pause for a second and smile back and be like, wow, I love that every day I start my day with a smile because this person brings a smile. Can you give them a thoughtful answer instead of just being like, yeah, my day's good? Can you actually respond the way that you would respond to maybe a closer friend? I don't mean like dump your whole life story out, but could you say something truthful? Like, wow, I'm really juggling a lot of things at the moment, but I have high hopes for today. Now, you can receive on a much bigger scale, right? It could be receiving help, could be receiving a message. Maybe somebody's checking in with you, receiving initiation. It's all about noticing and then responding, taking the time to actually respond in the way you want to respond, not just something quick, right? Like if a friend texts you and is like, hey, I really want to plan a time for us to get together and go try something new. Or maybe they give you something specific, like, hey, let's go check out this museum. Instead of just saying like, yeah, period, let's do it, send, moving back onto your task, can you send a little bit fuller of a message? Can you say, hey, that sounds like so much fun. I don't know the last time we had a lot of fun and we're trying something new. I really want to do that. Yes, I'll put it on my calendar. Do you see like the difference in receiving and reciprocating there? At the end of the day, so much of this is about appreciating what is there instead of focusing on what isn't there. We're getting to the very end of the episode, and I'm having this moment where I'm realizing like there's probably something I should have covered early on, but I'm just going to say it here to close it out, which is that so many people are putting their focus on what is missing, what will get this relationship or this friend group or this community to some like peak that you have in your head, to the ideal version. And I love that you have that vision and that ideal version. And I actually think that's important. But if you're not there yet, but you're putting all your focus on what's missing, you are not enjoying what is there. And enjoying what is there is what is going to actually lead to you feeling fulfilled in your friendships. It's kind of like when they talk about money, like if you became a billionaire, you can't appreciate what you have and you always want more. Not only did you not enjoy this entire process, maybe a billionaire was a bad example, but whatever, a marathon. If all you want to do is run a marathon and you don't enjoy the fact that you went from somebody who couldn't run a mile to somebody who can now run a 5K, you aren't proud of yourself and enjoy the fact that you can run a 10K, you aren't overjoyed and grateful for your body and so freaking proud of yourself for running a half marathon. I've done it. It is, well, I've kind of done it. I blew up my knee, so I understand how hard it is. But if you can't appreciate and enjoy that, will it ever be enough? So I hope this episode today maybe has allowed some spaces for you to find enjoyment in your friendships, to build this up as a practice, to allow the small moments to matter. Because at the end of the day, we all need to give ourselves permission to enjoy our connections, not just for ourselves. Like, yes, it makes me so happy, but also because you enjoying your connections in a world where we're taught that connection might be scary. It might be, right, unsafe, right? The world is a big, bad, scary place and everybody's out to get everybody. And like, if more people enjoy and trust and lean into their connections, over time, maybe we can shift the tide. With that, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Friendship IRL. I am so honored to have these conversations with you, but don't let the chat die here. Send me a voice message. I created a special website just to chat with you. You can find it at alex.chat. You can also find me on Instagram. My handle at it's Alex Alexander, or go ahead and leave a review wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. Now, if you want to take this conversation a step further, send this episode to a friend. Tell them you found it interesting and use what we just talked about as a conversation starter the next time you and your friend hang out. No need for a teary goodbye. I'll be back with a new episode next week.